grateful for this opportunity to be amongst all of you this evening. Tonight they have given us the topic, the power of renunciation. You may be wondering what this has to do with renunciation, that we just put an air conditioning system in the temple room. If you were to ask one of the brahmacharis, they would say with great conviction, it is because we have renounced the heat. God is all-powerful. When we speak of power, we should know Janmadyasya that the absolute truth is Him from whom everything emanates. This is a universal principle in all spiritual paths, that God is all-powerful. The Vishnu Purana explains why and how God is all-powerful. Parasana Muni speaks, Aishwarayasya samagrasya viryasya yashashashraya jnana vairagyayaschaiva sanam bhaka itingana. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Lord, possesses 6 opulences. And each of these opulences, which He possesses to unlimited degree, has tremendous, unlimited power. The power of God's beauty, strength, wealth, knowledge, fame, and renunciation. With these 6 opulences, the Lord creates all material existence, destroys all material existence, enlightens all living beings who are willing to accept His words, and most of all, conquer the hearts completely of those who turn to Him. This material creation is very difficult to overcome. Daivi heshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mamavam ye prapadyante maya meta tarantite. The 3 modes of material nature are the energies of the Lord. Therefore, they are unsurpassable by anyone. But if one surrenders to Krishna, one can easily cross over the 3 modes of material nature and all the miseries of material existence. How does this take place? Because when we surrender to Krishna, Krishna attracts our heart with His opulence of beauty, sweetness, knowledge, strength, fame, renunciation. And then the ocean of material existence is no more significant than the water contained in a hoofprint of a calf. That is Krishna's power. Now the Jivatma, or the living entity, who is part and parcel of Krishna, are always under the control of Krishna, either His material energy or His spiritual energy. Humanity since time immemorial has, as Shruti Dharma Prabhu has eloquently explained in this beautiful talk, which I feel ashamed to try to even speak anything after him in fear that you may forget even one word that he spoke. How much people are practicing to become beautiful, to become learned, to become wealthy, to become strong, to become famous. Well, for yogis, to become renounced. Why do people want these things, these opulences? For one reason, because it gives them power. And the concept is that power will bring me happiness. And it will help me to give other people happiness. But for the jiva, the greatest power above all other powers is vairagya, or renunciation. What is the meaning of renunciation? To give up the ego of misconception. Janasya mohoya mahamameti. It is these two misconceptions that is the cause of all suffering in the entire creation. That I am this body. I am the enjoyer. I am the proprietor. I am the controller. And whatever is in relationship to me is mine. We want to enjoy. But Krishna tells us in Gita, Yehi samsparashaja bhoga dukha jonaya evate atyanta vanta konte anate shuramate buddha. That an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which come about when the senses are in contact with the objects of the senses. Because such pleasures have a beginning and an end. They ultimately and inevitably must lead to suffering. But yet we have this inborn need to enjoy. We must understand what real enjoyment is. We're controlled by lust, by greed, by envy, by pride, by illusion, by anger. And under the dictations of these powers, we are like puppets, practicing and practicing and practicing. Real renunciation means to understand, I am not the doer. I am not this body. I am the eternal soul, and I am the eternal servant of God. Mahatmanastu mamparata daivim prakriti mashata bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. Gita explains what is a Mahatma. A great soul who is not deluded is a person who surrenders to the Lord. When we surrender to the Lord, we come under the protection of the Lord's own internal potency. People are fearful in this world. Why? Because the more you have to work to maintain it. And simultaneously, the more you have, the more that increases your desire for more and more and more, and creates fear that you'll lose it. Because the more you have, the more people are envious of you and want to take it away. Fear. How to overcome it? Only through the power of renunciation. Because when we renounce our ego and our ignorance and put ourselves under the protection of the Lord, we access the supreme power of God. Sarva dharman purityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masacha. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender to me. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. And the scriptures are full of examples of the difference between those who are attaining extreme egoistic material power and those who have renounced those misconceptions and that ego to take shelter of the Lord and the power that they receive. There is the example of Hiranyakashipu. What power he had. In this age of Kali Yuga, in the world we live, no one could compare. Bill Gates was a beggar in the street as far as wealth compared to Hiranyakashipu. At the best, Hiranyakashipu owned the entire planet Earth. He owned Indraloka and all the Swargalokas, all the planets of those demigods. He was the proprietor, the controller. And as far as his strength, what strength Hiranyakashipu had? We have our cricket players and our golfers and our boxers and football players who are very, very popular because of their strength. And we have their politicians who have their nuclear weapons and everything. But Hiranyakashipu was so powerful. If he raised his eyebrow, the Bhagavatam says, all the demigods would tremble in fear and run away. Now, everyone, go ahead, raise your eyebrows. See, see who cares. Go ahead, do it. Even the person sitting next to you will laugh at you. Hiranyakashipu, he raised his eyebrow. Demigods millions and millions of miles away are trembling in fear. What's going to happen next? That's power. And as far as fame, he made it a law. Everyone was honoring and worshiping him. They were bowing down to him. They were offering prayers to him. Even Narada Muni. Everyone. Except Brahma and Shiva. Everyone. That was his power. He gained it, as Shruti Dharma Prabhu was saying, through practice. He really practiced. More than Tiger Woods even. He was performing tapasya more than even Beethoven. According to Shruti Dharma Prabhu's amazing examples. He performed tapasya on the tips of his nose with his arms raised for practically 100 celestial years. Ants ate his body away. He was under an anthill. There was nothing left but a skeleton. And he did not deviate from his practice. He was determined. That's how he got his powers. And then we have our little Prahlada, who was only 5 years old. He never did any tapasya. He never raised his eyebrows. And if he did, everyone would probably laugh. He was just a sweet, innocent little boy. But because he was renounced, he renounced the desire to be a separate enjoyer. He renounced the desire to be a proprietor or a controller. He renounced the misconception that he was separate from God. Simply because of that renunciation, he accessed the power of the Lord. Hiranyakashipu tried to murder him in every way. And Prahlada was fearless. We all know how miserable it is to be fearful. Fearful that we're going to lose something, either our reputation or our friendship or our loved ones or our life or our wealth. People live in fear. They're motivated so much by fear. And they have to compromise so much out of fear. Prahlada was totally fearless. This little 5-year-old boy could stand before the king of the universe, Hiranyakashipu, and tell him, Father, O king of demons, you're an illusion. You're disgusting. Look at you. Totally attached to all your sense gratification, all your family stuff. Father, just give it all up, renounce it, and go to Vrindavan and worship Vishnu, knowing full well that his father's worst enemy was Vishnu. Vishnu killed his father's brother. Hiranyakashipu declared totalitarian war against Vishnu. And Prahlada's just all alone with him, saying, Father, surrender to Vishnu, go to Vrindavan. Harivo. How could he be so fearless? How many of you would tell that to Hiranyakashipu? And he kept telling him the same thing. Father, you can't attain Vishnu unless you smear the dust of the devotees' lotus feet all over your body. You're too much attached to sense gratification. You're chewing that which has already been chewed. Just hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, remember Krishna, become Krishna's devotee. Hiranyakashipu put his entire energy on murdering Prahlada. He threw him in fire, he threw him in snakes, he threw him under elephants, he tried severing him with weapons, putting him under water, under mountains, under elephants' trampling feet, feeding him poison. Prahlada never even so much as clenched a fist to defend himself. He never said a single word to retaliate. He just gave his heart to Krishna. Krishna, I'm yours. If you want to protect me, then who can harm me? If you want to kill me, I'm happy to die. That was Prahlada. And therefore the Lord saved him in every situation. Hiranyakashipu was powerless to cause any pain to Prahlada. That is power of renunciation. And in the end, Hiranyakashipu challenged Prahlada, where do you get your powers from? I just fed you poison enough to kill 100 grown men. You're a 5-year-old boy and you're smiling. I did everything. The demigods fear me. You have no fear for me. Where do you get your power from? Prahlada had no ego. He said, my father, I have no power. I get my power from the same place you get your power from. Krishna. Now that was the ultimate insult to his father. If you hate somebody, the worst thing anybody could say is that you get all of your facilities and powers and everything from that person. That is really an insult. Yes? It's like saying all the opulence and greatness of India is telling one of the politicians is by the grace of Pakistan. There's nothing worse you can say. It's an insult. So Hiranyakashipu, where is your Krishna? Where is he? He's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Yes, of course he's in that. He's everywhere. Hiranyakashipu smashed his fist against that pillar, drew his sword, and attacked Prahlada. And out from the pillar came Lord Narasimha, who was so powerful. Hiranyakashipu could not even look at him. He had to close his eyes. And the roaring of Nrsimhadev was so fearful that Hiranyakashipu's body was trembling to his bones. And that Lord Nrsimhadev, he performed a very excellent surgical operation. It was specifically in the gastrointestinal department. And there was Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, like a little wasp being torn apart, effortlessly. Nrsimhadev came to this earth due to the renunciation of Prahlada. That is the power behind one who renounces the false ego and takes shelter of the Lord. And as Madhava has taught us so nicely, the best way to find that shelter of the Lord is to cry out his holy name. We'll give a couple other examples of the power of renunciation. We have Durvasa Muni. He did a lot of practice of tapasya as a yogi. And he gained powers beyond the comprehension of the ordinary human being. Yogic siddhis. Mystic powers. He could create or destroy planets. That was the powers he had. He didn't have to get on Air India to fly to London. He could just chant a mantra and fly to the moon, to the sun, to Brahmaloka, to Vaikuntha. That's power. He was a yogi. And he was a renunciate. He gained his power through renunciation. These higher subtle powers come through renunciation. He had no wife, he had no children. He renounced everything. He went to visit Ambarish Maharaj in Vrindavan, in the forest of Madhuban. Ambarish Maharaj was a householder. He had a wife, he had children. He was a king, living in a palace with royal clothes and everything else like that. He didn't have any mystic powers that he ever exhibited. He was fasting for the sake of the purification of his own heart and for the sake of the well-being of his citizens. You know the story. Durvasa Muni wanted some prasad. He said, but I'm going to go bathe in Yamuna. I'll be back. But when he was in Yamuna, he went into samadhi. And it was time for Ambarish to break the fast. So with the permission of the Brahmins, he just took a drop of water. Because water is both breaking fast and not breaking fast. Because Ambarish knew it's not polite to eat before your guest. But Durvasa Muni, his powers, can you imagine? He was in the Yamuna, in samadhi, and Durvasa Muni, taking a drop of water, actually, a distance away, actually shook him out of his samadhi. That's power. He was all-knowing. He could read people's minds. He could know past, present, and future. He was angry. What a hypocrite. He's supposed to be a king, leading the generation on the right path of Dharma, and he's not honoring a guest properly? He said, he ran back. You are a hypocrite. You are materialistic. You are ungrateful. And you must die. What was his power? When you don't like somebody, you may have so many ideas of what you want to do. Durvasa Muni took one hair from his head. Now I challenge any of you, take a hair from your head. Say any mantra you like. Throw it on the ground and see what happens. You won't even hear it. You won't even hear it hit the ground. The worst thing, the most exceptional, outstanding possible thing that could happen if you throw your hair on the ground is somebody will say, why are you contaminating this place? But Durvasa Muni took his hair, threw it on the ground. A massive demon made out of fire came out, who had the power to devour the entire planet. And Durvasa Muni said, kill Ambarish. And that demon lunged at Ambarish Maharaj. What would you do? Ambarish Maharaj was completely renounced. Although he was a king with great wealth, with beautiful family, he understood everything was the property of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita says, whatever you have, and yat karosi yad ashnasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kontiya tat kurushva madarpana. Whatever you have, whatever you do, just do it as an offering to me. He didn't consider anything to be his own. He considered himself just the property of the Lord. And he lived in a spirit of devotion to the Lord. That is renunciation. Prapanchakatiya budya hari sambandhi vastuna mamukshami parityagyo vairagyam palgu katyate. Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says, what is real renunciation? It is to utilize everything for the service of the Lord without false ego, without selfishness. And if something that appears to be material, that could be utilized in the service of the Lord, is given up, that is considered incomplete, imperfect renunciation. So here is Durvasa Muni, the greatest of mystic yogis in the renounced order, and here is Ambarish, taking care of wife, children, and living in a palace. Ambarish did not try to defend himself. That fiery demon came, he just folded his palms and said, "My dear Lord Krishna, I am yours." That is renunciation. My Lord, I am yours. I am your puppet. I am an instrument of your mercy. Do whatever you want with me. That is real renunciation. And one who renounces in that way, the Lord promises, I will protect. Kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashati. Krishna says, you promise, Arjuna, I will always protect such a devotee. The Lord from Vaikuntha sent his Sudarshan chakra and destroyed that fiery demon within a moment. And that demon was only a second away from Ambarish. But within that split second, the Lord protected him. And because the Lord loves his devotees so much, that Sudarshan chakra went right toward Durvasa Muni. Now here's the difference between Durvasa Muni, a great sannyasi, and Ambarish, a great grihasta. The difference is, when the fire came toward Ambarish, he just stood there and folded his hands fearlessly. When the chakra came toward Durvasa Muni, he ran away. And then when running wasn't fast enough, he flew away. But you cannot escape the Lord. He flew to Brahmaloka, to Shivaloka, to Vishnuloka. For a whole year he was flying. In fear, he couldn't stop. He couldn't even stop to eat or drink. And ultimately Vishnu told him, you have offended my devotee. Only my devotee can forgive you. Durvasa Muni understood what is real power. Real power is devotion. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadohaitakam. One who practices sincerely devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, automatically real knowledge and real renunciation take place. Ambarish didn't even separately try to be a renunciate. He simply practiced devotion to the Lord. The perfection of renunciation. Shall I give another example? No. Gajendra. He was an elephant, and not an elephant of this world. He was an elephant of the higher planets. Very powerful. The most dangerous animal in the forest is the elephant, according to the people living in the forest. You city people may have your conceptions, the cobra, the tiger, the leopard, but talk to people living in the forest. The elephant. Wild elephants, when they come to trample on you, there's no escape.